I go to London. Hello, my name is Caitlin Clark. I am a student of English. This is my story. I want to tell you about my life in London. I want to tell you about my fantastic teacher. You can read my story, and you can learn English with me. I go to London. It is a beautiful summer day. I am traveling on a train. 2 women are on the train with me. The women sit opposite me. The women speak English. I don't understand much. I study English, but I am a beginner. I don't know many words. I start to speak to the women. I say some words in my basic English. The women understand what I want to say. I am happy. I say that I want to learn English. They tell me that they are from England. They go home from a conference. Our conversation is 10 minutes long. The next station is my station. I say goodbye. The women give me their address and phone number. They tell me that I can visit them in England. Then we say goodbye. After this meeting, I work on my English every day. I translate texts and watch films in English. In 6 months, my English is much better. It is good, but I want to know more. I go to London. I want to study English in London. When I am in London, I go to a school. My first lesson is on Monday. I meet my teacher and other students in the class. My teacher is a young lady. She is very nice. We say our names, and we say where we are from. Then the lesson starts. Our teacher has a question for us. She wants to know how we study English. Our teacher says that she can teach us a very effective method to learn English. This method is very simple. Our teacher tells us that we don't have to study. We don't have to read textbooks. But we have to use English a lot. It is very good for me. I don't like studying, and I don't like textbooks. Then we speak about what is important when we learn a new language. Our teacher tells us we need languages for communication. Languages help us say ideas and understand ideas. So, when you learn a new language, the best method is to use the language for communication. And this is what we will do in our course. We will speak a lot. Many students try to remember new words. They also study grammar rules. These students don't use English for speaking. They study about the language, but they don't use the language. Of course, you need to learn new words and new grammar, but you don't have to study them. In this course, I want to show you a very simple and effective method to learn words and grammar. I like what our teacher says. Our lesson continues. We speak about our hobbies and what we do in our free time. We speak in pairs or with our teacher. We speak all the lesson. I like it. I am really happy. This system of learning is very good for me. When you want to learn English, use English for communication. Lesson 2. How to learn words. I go to school on Tuesday again. One student asks a question that is very interesting. She asks, "What is the best method to learn new words?" Our teacher says there are many things you can do if you want to learn new words. For me, reading is the best. If you read, you learn faster than people who don't read. It is good to read for 30 minutes every day. I want to show you what you can do if you want to get the maximum from reading. It is very important that the book or text you read is interesting for you. The book can be a nice story, or the text can have some interesting information for your job or your hobby. Don't read a text that isn't interesting for you. It is good to read a text in which you know a lot of words. Of course, sometimes you can see words that you don't know. When you see a word that you don't know, take a dictionary and look at the word in the dictionary. Then continue reading. You don't have to write the word on a piece of paper. You don't have to try to remember the word. When you translate the word, continue reading. Concentrate only on understanding the text. It is important when you see another new word, translate the word. The method is very simple. You only read and you translate new words. That's all. Reading is also good because when you read, you learn how every word is connected to other words in the sentence. You see how to connect the words correctly. This method of learning new words is very effective. Try it, and you will see how fast you can learn new words. Then, we continue with the lesson. We speak about the situation in England. We speak about the best jobs for students. This is good because I want to have a job. I want to do something after school. I ask other students if they know where I can find a job. They tell me that I can go to a job center. The job center has a lot of jobs for students. This is good for me. I am happy that I know where I can find a job. When my day at school is finished, I go to the job center. I don't know what jobs I can do, so I ask the lady at the job center what the best job for a student is. The lady tells me that they have some good jobs for students. She tells me that I can be a cleaner or a waiter in a cafe. I tell the lady that I have no experience with these jobs. She tells me that my English is good for work at a cafe. The training is not difficult, and I can use English when I speak to customers. The lady tells me that I can start my job on Thursday. It is all good for me. I'm happy that I have a job where I can use English. When you want to learn new words effectively, read for 30 minutes every day. Lesson 3. How to learn pronunciation. On Wednesday, I go to school again. There is one student in the class who is quieter than the other students. He is from South Korea. When our teacher asks if we have any questions for her, this student from Korea says that he has a question. He says that he has a big problem with pronunciation. He knows that his pronunciation is not very good, but he doesn't know how to make it better. He doesn't speak much because he doesn't like his pronunciation. He says that he reads and watches films in English a lot. He understands very well, but he also wants to speak well. He asks if there is something that he can do with his pronunciation. When my teacher hears this, she says, "Okay, I can tell you something about pronunciation and how to practice it. I also want to teach you a technique which can help you with pronunciation. First, we have to look at why students have problems with pronunciation. When we speak, we have to move our mouth. We have to use muscles in our mouth. The problem is that when you speak English, sometimes you use your muscles like in your native language. Then your English pronunciation is like the pronunciation in your native language. This happens to many students who learn English. Almost every student has a slightly different pronunciation than native speakers have. It is not a big problem because usually people understand what you want to say. You are a student, and it is logical that your pronunciation is not perfect when you study English. But you can work on your pronunciation and make it better. There is a great technique that can help you a lot. The name of this technique is shadowing. The technique is very simple. When you do shadowing, you simply copy the sound which you hear. When children learn their first language, they also copy what they hear. They copy after their parents again and again, and after some time, their pronunciation is perfect. You can learn English pronunciation in the same way. You can take some video that is not very fast and that you understand very well. You listen and copy what you hear when you hear it. That's all. Then our teacher goes to www.youtube.com and she finds a good video where the shadowing technique is well demonstrated. We watch the video and then we all try to do shadowing for about 3 minutes. Then our teacher tells us, shadowing is also good when you are preparing for a presentation and you want to have good pronunciation. Before the presentation, you can go to some place where you are alone, and you can do shadowing for about 10 minutes. You will see how much it will help you to have better pronunciation during the presentation. This is very interesting for me. I haven't heard about this technique before. When the lesson finishes, I go to the school reception. I ask the lady if there are any sport activities at school. I would like to do some sport in England. The lady at the reception says, yes, we have a table tennis team and a football team. The football team has training today at 5 p.m. I am very happy because sport is very important in my life. I go to the football team training. I meet a lot of players from different countries. The players are from Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, Argentina, and Italy. I like the training, and I am very happy that my time in England starts well. I have a great teacher. I also have some new friends from my football team. Also, tomorrow I am starting my job. When you want to have good pronunciation, repeat after native speakers. Lesson 4. How to practice speaking. On Thursday, I go to school again. We have a new student in our class. Her name is Sophia, and she is from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, my teacher asks Sophia some questions. My teacher knows Sophia because Sophia visited her class 1 year ago. It was a class for beginners, and it was only for 2 weeks during the summer holiday. When Sophia speaks, her English is beautiful. Her pronunciation is very good, and she is very fluent. My teacher is very happy, and she tells Sophia, "Your school in Italy must be very good." Sophia says, "I don't go to any school. I learn English at home. I use techniques from you. I do a lot of reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud. I try to think more in English than in Italian. This is how I work on my English. The 2 weeks which I spent last summer at your class helped me a lot. You showed me the way. I know how to work on my English every day. This is why I wanted to go to your class again, because 1 year ago, I was a beginner, and now I can speak English. I want to learn from you again." My teacher is very happy when she hears these words. She thanks Sophia for her hard work. It is all very interesting for me. I already know about reading, and I also know the shadowing technique. But Sophia also speaks about thinking aloud. I don't know what it is, so I ask our teacher, "What is it, thinking aloud?" Our teacher says, "It is a very effective technique. You have to have a strong motivation to learn English if you want to benefit from this technique. It is also good to know that for some people this technique is a little crazy. But when you start to think aloud, your English can improve very fast." I say, "I have a strong motivation. I don't care if the technique is crazy. If it helps, I want to learn it. Can you teach us this technique? Okay, she says. It is actually very simple. You think in your native language all day, every day. It is normal. Now, you can start to think in English. And when you start to think in English, then you can think aloud. You simply say aloud what you think. That's all. I say, it is very simple. Why is it so effective? Our teacher says, maybe you can ask Sophia. She uses this technique. Maybe she can tell you more about it. Then our teacher asks Sophia if it is okay for her to speak about her experience with thinking aloud. It is no problem, says Sophia. When I started with this technique, it wasn't easy. I started with very simple sentences. For example, I can speak English. It is good that I can speak English. I want to be better. I need to practice every day. I don't know many words, but I can use these words well. I can do this. This is great. The sentences were really simple, but at the beginning, there was one problem. My thinking in Italian was long and complicated. I wasn't able to say in English exactly what I was saying in Italian. I needed to find a simpler form for English. To think in simple English was the hardest part, but after some time it was normal for me to think in English. Then something interesting happened, she continues. I met a man from Australia. He was on holiday in Italy. I was still a beginner, but we started to speak English. I could see that I was able to speak with him without big problems. My sentences were simple and short, but I was able to speak. I didn't translate in my head from Italian to English. After the meeting with the man from Australia, I started to use thinking aloud more. This technique helped me a lot with my speaking. I still use it every day. It is really a very effective technique. Our teacher thanks Sophia for her experience with thinking aloud. I want to use this technique because I also want to be better at speaking. When you want to speak English fluently, think aloud. Lesson 5. How to learn grammar. After school, I go to the cafe where my job training starts. I don't know what to expect. I have no experience, and I am not sure if I can do this job. When I come to the cafe, I am very surprised. It is a modern cafe which sells coffee, tea, and also chocolate cakes and sandwiches. My boss is only 25 years old. She started working at the cafe more than 2 years ago. She has a lot of experience, and she knows everything perfectly. She shows me how to prepare coffee, how to wash the dishes, and how to deal with customers. It is all new for me. I remember only about 20% of what she tells me, but then she lets me do the work and corrects me when I make a mistake. She is very friendly, and I learn fast. After the first day at work, I am very tired, but I am happy that I have a job. The next day is Friday, and I go to school again. One student asks an interesting question. Sometimes when I speak, I am not sure if I speak correctly. I am not sure if I use correct grammar. Can you help me? What should I do if I want to learn grammar? Our teacher says, "Thank you for your question. There are 2 groups of students. Some students study English because they want to be able to speak. Some students study English because they want to pass an exam. For each group, the situation is different. First, I will speak about the students who need English for speaking. If this is you, you don't have to study grammar a lot. When you learned your native language, you also learned it without studying grammar. You can learn English grammar naturally by using the language. The best way to learn grammar naturally is by reading a lot. Books are written in good grammar. When you read, you will learn grammar in the context of the whole sentence. I also recommend shadowing. When you do shadowing, you practice the correct grammar naturally. You don't have to try to remember anything. You only copy sentences with correct grammar. If you need English for speaking but also want to study grammar, you can visit www.grammarand.com. This website shows what grammar is important for different levels of English. You can find the most important grammar rules for speaking there. The second group of students are those who study English for passing an exam. If you are one of these students, I recommend studying specifically for this exam. You can take the versions of this exam from past years, if it is possible, and train with them. Of course, your exam will be a little different, but the structure is usually the same or very similar. From my point of view, the versions of the exam from past years are good training materials. Then, I recommend going to the exam only when your results in the training materials are such that you can pass the exam successfully. Did I answer your question? Yes, thank you, says the student. This is good news. I don't like studying grammar. I learn English because I want to be able to speak. I don't need to pass any exam. I am happy that I don't have to study grammar much. I like reading, and I am happy that I can learn grammar by reading books. After the lesson, I go to the website www.grammarhandles.com. It is really a nice website. There are grammar rules with examples for each level. They have 3 levels. These levels are 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000 words. In the afternoon, I go to my work. It is my second day, and I can already do a lot of things by myself, but my boss helps me when I need it. I see that my work is not very difficult, and I can practice English when I speak to our customers. When you want to have good grammar, read a lot. Lesson 6. How to test your English. It is Monday again, and I go to my school. Our teacher asks us what we did over the weekend. I say that I was at work on Saturday. I say that I can already do my work well, and I say that I am happy when I can speak to our customers. When I speak, one of the girls in the class asks me, "What happened to your voice? You sound very different from what we heard last week. Your pronunciation is very good." I smile and say, "Thank you. I used shadowing on Saturday evening after my work and the whole Sunday. I tried to speak like a native speaker. I know that it is not perfect, but I also see a big change in my pronunciation." Our teacher asks if other students tried to practice shadowing. 3 students say yes. One of them is the student from South Korea. He also likes this technique. One student says that she tried the technique, but her mouth was in pain after 5 minutes of shadowing, and she stopped. She also says that she wasn't always able to repeat everything because the recording was very fast for her. Our teacher says, "Thank you for trying out this technique. If you do shadowing for the first time and your mouth is in pain after 5 minutes, you are doing it correctly. You need to train your muscles to this new way of speaking. It is like going to the gym for the first time. Your muscles can hurt if they are not trained. If the muscles in your mouth hurt, you can take a break after 5 minutes of shadowing, and you can continue a bit later. With every 5 minutes of practice, your pronunciation gets better. Shadowing has other advantages. You practice the correct pronunciation in English, and you also practice other things, for example, intonation, rhythm, and connecting words in whole sentences. I know that at the beginning, the recording can sometimes be very fast for you. If this happens, you can repeat only the first or the last word in the sentence. With practice, you will be able to repeat more. I say that it is true. On Saturday, when I started with shadowing, it was difficult for me, but on Sunday evening, it was easy to repeat what I heard. Then I have a question for our teacher. I tell her that I looked at www.grammarand.com. The website is interesting, but I don't know what level is for me because I don't know how many words I know. Our teacher asks other students if they know how many words they know in English. It is interesting to see that nobody knows. We know that we are intermediate students, but we don't know how many words we know. Our teacher says there is a website for people who study foreign languages. You can do a test there, and you can know how many words you know. The test has only 2 steps, and it is really simple. The name of the website is www.testlanguages.com. You can do the test every month, and you can see how much you improved during that month. If you want, you can now take your smartphones and go to that website and do the test. I am really interested in knowing how many words I know. I do the test immediately. I find out that I know 2,100 words in English. Most of the students know between 2,000 and 2,200 words. Only Sophia and the boy from South Korea know 2,500 words. Our teacher says, so you can see that when you go to www.grammarand.com, you should already know grammar from level 2. You can start using grammar from level 3 because level 3 is for students who know between 2,000 and 3,000 words. Test your progress every month. Lesson 7. How to handle mistakes. On Tuesday, I go to school again. One student asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, I want to practice speaking with people around me, but I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want to look stupid. Can you help me? Our teacher says, making mistakes is a very interesting topic. There are a lot of opinions on this topic. I want to show you what I believe is the best to do. I have a lot of experience with this because I also learn new languages. For example, now I'm learning Spanish. When I speak Spanish, I don't care if I make mistakes or not. The reason why I don't care about mistakes is simple. When I learned my native language, I didn't care about making mistakes. Mistakes weren't important for me. My main goal when I use any language is to say my ideas. That's all. I know that when I read a lot, speak, and do shadowing, my Spanish will be better and better. I know that this can look very simple, but it is my opinion. This is what I learned after many years of teaching and learning languages. It works very well for me and many of my students. When I speak, I only concentrate on speaking. At the moment, I know 1,500 words in Spanish. It is the level of a 2-year-old child. 2-year-old children make a lot of mistakes when they speak, but they don't care about their mistakes. They continue using their native language, and when they are 3 years old, they make very few mistakes, and when they are 4 years old, they usually speak very well. You can do the same. Now, most of you know about 2,000 words, so it is absolutely okay to make mistakes from time to time. When you continue using English, there will be fewer and fewer mistakes in your speaking. It is not possible to go to a higher level if you don't make mistakes when you practice English. It is okay not to be perfect. Perfection comes with practice. All people who started to learn English started from the beginning, from the 0 level. Learning languages is like learning to play a musical instrument. It needs to be trained. When you start your training, it is not perfect at the beginning, and you make mistakes. It is normal. Take it as a necessary part of your learning process. If you don't go through this period of making mistakes, you can't get to higher levels. When you continue to use English, the mistakes can step by step go away. If you want to make fewer and fewer mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing. When you read, you can read aloud. It can also help you make fewer mistakes in real conversations. Care only about exchanging ideas. Don't care about making mistakes. When you speak, you practice changing your ideas to words. You don't learn grammar or words. You have other activities for that. Don't worry. Everybody who learns a foreign language makes mistakes. Sometimes, famous people, bosses of big companies, or politicians make mistakes too. When you listen to these people on TV, you see that they don't care about mistakes. They care about what is important, and that is saying their ideas. You can do the same. Does it make sense? The girl says, "Yes, thank you." If you don't want to make mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing. Lesson 8: How to Remember Words. On Wednesday, I go to school again. At the beginning of the lesson, one student says, "I started to read more. I feel that it is good for me. I can see how my grammar is better, but I have a problem. When I read and I don't know a word, I look at the word in a dictionary, then I continue reading. Sometimes, when I see the same word again 10 minutes later, I don't remember the word and I have to look at it again. Can you help me remember the words better?" Our teacher says that it is an interesting question and gives this explanation. It is normal that you don't remember the new word immediately. Usually, you will have to look at the word 5 times before you remember it. There will also be words which you will have to see 10 or 15 times. These words are usually verbs. When we learn a new word, the word goes through phases. Only when you achieve the last phase do you remember the word very well. There are 5 of these phases. We can look at them now. The first phase is the moment when you see the word for the first time and you don't know the word. You look at the word in the dictionary. The second phase is the moment when you see the word for the second time. You know that you saw this word before, but you still don't remember its meaning. You look at the word in the dictionary again. The third phase is the moment when you see the word again and you feel what it could mean, but you are not sure. For example, you know that the word is some kind of object, some animal, or a verb. The fourth phase is the moment when you already know what the word means when you see it, but you are not able to remember the word when you want to say it. When this phase happens, the word is in your passive vocabulary. The fifth phase is the moment when you are able to use the word when you speak. Now you can see there are 5 phases altogether. Do you understand now why it is not possible to remember a new word well when you see it for the first time? It is usually not possible to jump across all the phases with the first meeting with the word. You have to see or hear every word many times and let the word go through all the phases. You can be happy not only when you learn a new word perfectly, but also when you get from one phase to the other. When it happens, you are closer to the final goal, and it is to use the word without problems in everyday communication. It is interesting to me, I say. I didn't know about these phases, but it is all logical. I also have this experience when I look at a new word in the dictionary, but 2 minutes later, I don't know what the word means, and I have to look at the word again. I feel stupid when I don't remember the word. Now I know that it is okay not to remember the word forever when I see it for the first time. I need more meetings with the word before I can use the word well. After school, I go to my football training. Our coach tells us that there is a match on Saturday. The school team will play against another school team from Cambridge. Our coach tells me to come and play for the school team. I am very happy, and I am looking forward to the Saturday match. When you want to remember a new word, you need to see or hear the word about 10 times. Lesson 9. How to improve listening. The next day, I go to school again. One of the students has an important question. He wants to know how to improve his listening skills. He wants to know what the best method is. Our teacher says, "Thank you for your question. Good listening skills are very important for communication. If you don't understand what people are saying, it will be difficult for you to speak with them." There are a lot of materials on the internet for students of English. Some students can have a problem choosing the right listening materials for them. Now, I want to tell you what materials you can use for listening. There are 2 types of materials which you can use for listening. You can listen to some audio, or you can watch a film. These are 2 different types of materials. When you listen to some audio, it is good to know 95% of the words or more. If the audio has a lot of new words, read the text first if possible, and look up all new words in the dictionary. When you practice listening, you practice getting information from spoken language. You don't try to learn new words. Of course, sometimes you can learn new words, but it is not the main goal. When you listen, concentrate on getting information from spoken English. It is important to use materials at your level of English. For example, you can use books in simplified English, which have an audio recording. I really recommend these books to you. They are fantastic because you can choose a book at your level of English. When you have such a book, read the book first, and then listen to the recording at home or when you travel. You can read 2 great books at www.robinsoncrusoe.com or www.reading.com. You can also visit www.new.com if you like listening to the news. All these materials are in 3 levels of English. The second type of materials for listening practice are films and videos on www.youtube.com. These are also very good. You can start to use them when you know 2,000 words in English or more. This is what you should do with a film. Watch it for the first time with subtitles so that you know the story of the film. Then, watch the film without subtitles. If you like the film very much, you can watch it more than once. When you watch one film many times, with every view, you can understand more. It is also good to watch videos on the internet about interesting subjects. For example, if you like nature, you can watch documentaries about nature. You can also watch reality shows. Reality shows are much easier to understand than films or documentaries because the structure of the show is usually similar. It is necessary to have at least 30 minutes of listening every day. When you listen to English materials, always look at what you already understand. It can be only 10% at the beginning, but it is better than 0%. Continue to listen, and soon it can be 20 or 30%. Always look at what you already know. Be happy for every new sentence which you understand. Does this information help you? Yes, says the student. Thank you. The listening topic is very interesting for me. Now I know what to do when I want to be better at listening. When you want to be good at listening. Lesson 10. What you need. Before you start on Friday, we have an interesting conversation in our class. Our teacher has a question for us. She asks, do you remember your first impulse to learn English? Do you remember the moment when you started to learn English? I say that I remember the moment when I started to be interested in English. My teacher says, can you tell us about this moment? I say, yes. First, I have to say that English wasn't always my favorite subject. I started to learn English in high school. At the beginning, it was very difficult for me. I didn't understand the structure of the language. It was illogical to me. I tried to remember words. I tried to learn grammar, but it was very hard for me. When I finished high school, I was still only a beginner. I couldn't speak English, and I believed that I couldn't learn this language. I believed that English wasn't for me. Then something happened. I always liked music, and when I was 20, I started to listen to the Beatles. I wanted to understand their songs, so I started to translate the lyrics. Slowly, I understood more and more. Then I met two ladies from England on a train. We had a simple conversation, but it helped me very much. I started to believe that I could learn English. From that moment, I was working on my English almost every day, and I was getting better and better. Then I started to go to this school. My teacher thanks me for telling my story. She also says, here is something very interesting about your story. First, you weren't motivated to learn English. Then, you found a motivation. You wanted to understand songs. You can see that motivation is very important. When you have it, you can learn English. When you don't have it, it is very hard to be successful. Then our teacher asks everybody in the class about their motivation to learn English. The stories are very interesting. One girl's motivation is to be able to read historical books in original English. One student wants to be a professional tennis coach in England. He wants to speak perfect English before he starts his career as a coach. One woman wants to work for a big international company, and she needs English for her job. I can see that everybody has some motivation to use English in real life or to get information from books. At the end of the lesson, our teacher asks us if we like English. I say, I didn't like English in high school, but now I like it a lot. I can see how useful it is to know this language. Our teacher says, this is another important factor when you learn a new language. It is good when you like something connected to English. It could be people, music, culture, or history. If you like English, it is easier for you to learn it. If you want to communicate in English, it is good to know 3,000 words or more. If you don't like English, it is more difficult to find time to practice, and it is difficult to reach the level of 3,000 words. I agree with my teacher. Now I like the Beatles, but also my teacher and my boss, who is also English. I also like English humor. Now it is much easier for me to find time to practice English every day. On Saturday, I go to play football for my school team. We have some very good players on our team, and we win 3-2. We are all very happy. We go to the pub after the match and celebrate our victory. When you want to learn English, you need to be motivated to use English every day. Lesson 11. How to learn 3,000 words. In the next lesson, one of the students asks our teacher this question. You say that it is good to know 3,000 words. Where can I find these 3,000 most used words? My teacher says, you can find a list of the 3,000 most frequent words in English on the internet, but it is difficult to learn new words from this list. These words are not connected with any story. You don't learn what other words are connected with these words in sentences. This system works only for some words. These are basic words that describe things and people around us. For example, mother, father, apple, blue, orange, dog, cat, book, car, house, city, boy, girl, water, cinema, or paper. These are words that represent something you can imagine easily. For example, when you learn the word dog, you can easily picture what it is. You have a clear idea in your head of what the word means. But when you want to learn words such as decide or opinion, this system doesn't work well. This is a problem that many students have. They start their studies with lists of words. It works at the beginning, and they believe that they can learn English this way. They don't know that when they get to the level of 1,000 words, they have to start using a different system. If you want to learn words from a higher level, you have to learn them from whole sentences. If you understand the meaning of a word in the context of a sentence, you can learn the word much better. You can learn words from lists, but there is usually a limit to how far you can go with this way of learning, and it is around 1,000 words. Also, this way of learning is very slow. There are much better ways, which you already know. For example, reading. For beginners, the best book to read is Robinson Crusoe in Simple English. You can find this book at www.robinsoncrusoe.com. It is a very good book for learning new words for beginners. There is also one interesting rule that is good to know. Every word that is important for you will come back into your life again and again. This is very similar to how we learn our own language. When we are children, we don't study from lists of words. We just use the language, and important words come into our lives again and again. We learn new words this way all our lives. For example, the verb Google is a new word in many languages. We learn this word by using the language. We didn't learn this word from any list of words. When you heard the word Google for the first time, you probably didn't know what it meant. Then you heard it again and again because the word was important for you, and after some time, you understood the word. So, forget about lists of words. Learn new words by reading stories and other interesting texts. When you use English a lot every day, soon you can learn 3,000 words. Does it make sense? Yes, says the student. Thank you. After school, I go to work. I already know my work very well. Things start to feel automatic. I am happy that I understand my customers. It is not very difficult because the conversations are usually very similar. Our customers want some coffee or sandwiches, so the words are usually the same or very similar. My confidence grows, and sometimes I start to have longer conversations with our customers. It is all good, but then something happens. It is a little shocking for me. When you learn a new word, learn it as part of a whole sentence. Lesson 12. How to improve your accent. On Tuesday, when I am at work, something interesting happens. 2 customers come to our cafe. They are a husband and a wife. The man starts to speak to me. I know that he speaks English, but I don't understand him. I don't understand what he wants. I think that he wants something we don't have, so I call my boss. She speaks with the man and sells him 2 coffees and 2 sandwiches. I am surprised. When they leave, I go to my boss and tell her that I am sorry I didn't understand the man. She says that it's okay. She says, this can happen when people speak with an accent that is new to us. She tells me that the pair was from Scotland. The next day, I go to school and tell this story to my teacher. I tell her that I felt really stupid for not understanding our customer. I wasn't sure if my English was good enough for my job. My boss was okay with it, but I still needed some help from my teacher. I wanted to know what I could do in these situations. My teacher says, I understand. You understand English spoken in London, but the Scottish accent is new for you. Your ears aren't trained for the Scottish accent. You need to listen more to Scottish English. You need to train your ears to this accent too. What happened to you can happen to everybody. When you already speak English at a certain level and go to a country where people speak with a different accent, this is quite normal. Lesson 12. How to improve your accent. It is normal that you don't understand, my teacher says. It is okay, and it usually takes 2 weeks before you understand this new accent. This doesn't mean there is something wrong with you. With practice, you can train your ears to this accent. Then I ask, so, what can I do to understand the Scottish accent? I don't live in Scotland. Our teacher says, you can watch films with Scottish English, or you can watch situation comedies from Scotland, and soon you'll understand. I tell her, thank you. After school, I go to work again. At about 4, 2 interesting customers come to our cafe. This time, they are not from Scotland. They are foreigners. They want to buy some coffee. They are 2 ladies, and it's clear that their English is very basic. My boss is serving them, and when she hears that they don't speak English very well, she does something very interesting. She changes her English. using very simple sentences with only 3 or 4 words. I can see that the ladies understand her. They buy 2 coffees, 2 sandwiches, and 2 cakes. They are happy, and my boss is happy too. When the ladies leave, I tell my boss that it was very nice how she changed her English so the 2 ladies understood her. My boss says that sometimes she has to speak in very simple English. It doesn't matter if the customers speak English well or not, she says. They are our customers, and we have to do everything possible for them. If they see that they can speak English here, they may come to our cafe every day. I think that our boss is a good businesswoman. She does everything possible to make our customers happy. It is true that we have a lot of customers. Our cafe is busy every day. When you want to understand people with a special accent, listen to audio with their accent for some time. Lesson 13. What you can do at your level. The next day at school, I tell my teacher about my experience with my boss and the 2 ladies who didn't speak English very well. Our teacher says, "Great! Your boss must be a very clever young lady. It is true that you can communicate with everybody. People who speak English very well can have a conversation with those who are at the beginning of their journey. Today, we can speak about different levels of English and what you can do at these levels. Let's start with the lowest level of 1,000 words. At this level, students can speak about some basic things from everyday life. Speaking is very limited, but it is already possible to communicate slowly for a short time with people who want to speak with you. Your sentences are short, usually with 4 words. If others also speak in short sentences, you can have a basic conversation. When students move to a higher level, which is 2,000 words, conversations are easier and sentences are longer. This is the level you're at right now. You can speak about many things from your life. You can talk about your family, hobbies, job, and traveling. Sometimes you may have a problem when you want to go into a deeper conversation on some topics, but this level is usually good enough for everyday use of English. If you want to be able to have a deeper conversation on many topics, it's good to know 3,000 words. It is a good goal for students of English. Of course, you can learn more than 3,000 words. With more words, it is easier for you to communicate in English. But 3,000 words is the level that is usually enough for communicating in English about almost everything. I think that the 2 ladies at your cafe knew about 1,000 words. Your boss went to their level, and she had a basic conversation with them. After school, I go to work. The 2 ladies come to our cafe again, and they bring 2 of their friends. It's my turn to serve them. I speak to them in simple, short sentences, and they understand me. This is great. They tell me they are tourists from Japan. They tell me they like our cafe because people understand them here. When you want to be able to communicate in English, learn 3,000 words. Lesson 14. What to do when you are shy. On Thursday, I go to school again. One student has a very interesting question. "Shay, I am very shy when I have to speak English. Can you help me? I don't want to be so shy." Our teacher says, "It is true that when we use foreign languages, it's natural that we are shy. We are doing something we don't know perfectly, and the possibility of making a mistake is very high. I was also very shy when I learned foreign languages. I remember well how I was afraid to make a mistake. When I made a mistake, I felt stupid, and sometimes my face turned red. Now it is different. I use languages for communication, and I only care about communication. You know that I am learning Spanish these days. Sometimes I make a mistake, but it doesn't stop me from using Spanish. It is true that sometimes I still feel shy when I have to speak Spanish. Sometimes my face turns red, but I don't care much about it. It is a natural human feeling, and it is always a short moment. I continue using Spanish because I know that only by using it can I get better. I also try to see things as they are. I am a student, and I am on the way to good Spanish. It's not possible to jump many levels in one day. A beginner can't be a perfect speaker in 1 hour. I also see the value I bring to people around me when I speak some Spanish. You can see the same for yourself. When you already speak some English, you can have a conversation with other people in English. That's great. Look at what you already know. You know 2,000 words. You have already gone from 0 to 2,000 words. Be happy about it. Some students feel that to know English means being able to speak like a native speaker, to have perfect pronunciation, perfect grammar, and to speak perfectly without any mistakes. They think that if they are not doing that, they don't know English. Lesson 14. Overcoming shyness in language learning. They are shy because they are not perfect. These students are very hard on themselves, and it is not necessary. You are great because you already speak some English. Continue working on your English, and your shyness can, step by step, go away. I like what our teacher tells us. I am also sometimes shy. I know that I have to practice speaking a lot, but in some situations, I don't want to look stupid, and I don't speak as much as I can. I decide to be braver in these situations and use them to practice more. Then one student says, "Sometimes I want to say something, but I don't know the word I want to say. Then I stop, and I don't know what to do in these situations. I feel very stupid. The next time I have a chance to speak English, I don't want to speak because I don't want to be in that situation again. Can you help me with this?" Our teacher says, when you start to speak English, you have to prepare for one thing, the situation where you don't know a word you want to say. In such a situation, you have to learn how to describe the word. This ability is very important when you learn a new language. You need to learn this skill to train how to express ideas with the vocabulary you already know. For example, if you don't know how to say the word key, you can describe it as a small thing for opening a door. You also describe words in your native language, but usually you don't realize it. If you don't know the word for something, you simply describe it to the other person so that they understand. You can do the same in English, but you need to train this ability. Thinking aloud is a very good technique to use when you want to improve your ability to describe things. Use thinking aloud every day, and your skill in describing things can improve. You can only learn English by using English. It's okay to be shy, but don't let it stop you from using English. Lesson 15. Who is talented? The next day is Friday, and I go to school again. I am happy to be in this class, not only because we have a great teacher, but also because there are students from many different countries. In our class, some students are from Europe, some are from South America, and there's even one student from Japan and one from South Korea. This is good for me because the students don't speak my native language. When I speak to them, I have to use only English, which is very good for my practice. Today, we have a new student in our class. Her name is Sophia, and she is from Argentina. At the beginning of the lesson, Sophia says that she thinks she doesn't have a talent for studying languages, but that she wants to work hard to improve. My teacher asks her, "Why do you think that you don't have a talent?" She answers, "I think I don't have a talent because my sister learns English very fast, but for me, it is difficult." Then our teacher asks everyone in the class, "Do you think you have a talent for learning languages? Please raise your hand if you believe that you do." I look around the class, and nobody raises their hand. My teacher smiles, then says, "Now I want to tell you something. Many people think that you need to have a talent to learn a new language. I agree. Yes, you need to have a talent if you want to learn a new language. But I also believe that you already have a talent for learning languages. Why? Because you already learned one language, your native language. You were successful in learning your native language, and you speak that language fluently. All people who can learn their native language have a talent for learning languages. Why do many students believe they are not talented? The reason is this: there are people who are super talented. Yes, it is true. These super talented people remember new words very fast and for a longer time. Maybe you know such a person. Maybe it's someone at your work or in your family. There are not many of these people, but they exist. I believe that this might be Sophia's sister. For these people, learning a new language is fun, and they can do it easily. Sophia agrees, saying that it's true. Her sister is really better than everyone else. Our teacher continues, "It's true that these super talented people exist, and it's a fact we can't change, but it is not a problem. The problem is that we compare ourselves to these people. If we don't learn as fast as they do, we think we aren't talented. I want to ask you one thing. Please do not compare yourself to these super talented people. Yes, they are lucky and have an advantage, but you are lucky too. You might be super talented in other things. Maybe you are more talented than others at singing, swimming, playing tennis, counting numbers, cooking, or fixing cars. People are not all the same, and that's the beauty of this world. Now, believe that you are also talented. Maybe you're not super talented, but you are talented. When you believe in your talent, learning English will be easier for you." These words from our teacher are very helpful to us. I know I am talented at playing football and tennis. Now I also know I am talented at learning English. It is great. And what is also great is that there is a school party in the evening. I really look forward to this party. I know some girls from our class are going, and I hope our new student Sophia is going too. I have only known Sophia for one day, but I like her very much. If you can speak your native language, then you have a talent for learning English. Lesson 16. How to speak fluently. On Monday, I go to school again. Our teacher asks us about Friday's school party. One student says that the party was great. We had a lot of drinks and a lot of fun. The girls from our class enjoyed the party too. I enjoyed it a lot because Sophia was there. I could talk to her, and we danced together. It was all very nice. There were also 2 boys from my football team at the party. These boys are from Brazil, and their English is basic. They could speak only in short sentences, but they were very funny at the party. They made a lot of jokes about life in England, about other players from our team, and about girls from their class. Their sentences were very short, with only 3 or 4 words, but they were able to speak fluently. When we speak about the party, I tell my teacher, "It was really interesting to see that somebody who doesn't know many words can already speak fluently. I know some students who are at a much higher level, and they can't speak fluently." My teacher says, "The 2 boys from your football team showed you the right way." The boys used what they knew. They cared only about what was really important. It was communication. Then one girl asks, "So what can we do if we want to speak English fluently?" "To go to parties and make jokes." My teacher says, "First, let me explain what fluent speaking is." Many students think that fluent speaking is fast speaking with a lot of words and perfect grammar, but there is a better, more correct definition of fluent speaking. Fluent speaking is speaking without long pauses. Some people can do it at 1,000 words, some people can do it at 2,000 words, but there are also people who know 3,000 words and aren't able to speak fluently. If you want to speak fluently, you have to practice speaking. There is no other way to improve your fluency. Speaking is a physical activity. It is like playing a musical instrument. If you want to play the violin, you need to train the connection between your brain and the muscles in your fingers. When you want to speak well, you need to train the connection between your brain and the muscles in your mouth. Some students have an interesting experience. Maybe you have this experience too. You meet a foreigner who wants to speak with you in English. You want to say ideas that are in your head, but you aren't able to do it. You can't find the right words. Then, when you end the conversation and play it back in your head, you can see that you actually knew the right words, but the conversation is already finished. Why do you have this experience? Because you have little training. Your speaking isn't automatic, and it is not automatic because you don't practice it often enough. When you want to speak fluently, I recommend speaking for at least 30 minutes a day. You can speak to a real person. If you don't have a real person for a conversation, you can do thinking aloud. It is necessary to really think aloud, and not only think in your head. You need to practice the connection between your brain and your muscles. You can do this by thinking aloud. Does it make sense? Yes, says the girl. If you want to speak fluently, speak for 30 minutes every day. Lesson 17. What is the best school? The next lesson, one of the students asks an interesting question. She says, "Next week, I'm going home. I would like to continue studying in my country. I don't know how to choose a good school there. Could you help me? How do I know if the school is good or not?" My teacher says, "This is a very good question. I believe that when you read, listen, and speak a lot, you don't have to go to a school. You will learn English naturally by using it. But if you want to pay for your education, a good teacher can help you learn faster. If you want to know if your school is good, before the first lesson of the course, go to www.dustu.com. There, you can find out how many words you know. After 5 lessons at the new school, do the test again, and you can see how many new words you know. If you are happy with your progress, you can continue paying for your lessons. It is also important that you enjoy every lesson and look forward to the next one. It is important to enjoy every activity you do with English. I also give private lessons via Skype. If you are interested, I can teach you via Skype. If you don't find a good school in your town, you can contact me and I can help you. This is great, says the student. I want to have private lessons with you via Skype. This is great news for me. I didn't know that it was possible to have a private lesson with my teacher. Soon, I am also going back to my country, and I want to have private lessons with my teacher. When you go to school, you have to see your progress and enjoy every lesson. Lesson 18. How to get information. It is Wednesday, and I go to school again. At the beginning of the next lesson, Sophia has a question for my teacher. She asks her, "How do you know all this? Where did you learn information about studying languages?" Our teacher says, "There are many ways I get information about learning languages. The first way is through experience. I started to teach years ago. I have many years of experience. When I teach you, I observe what works and what doesn't work, and then I use only things that help. I also study materials about learning languages on the internet. When I find something interesting, I test it in one of my classes. If it works, I use it in all other classes. I have a good friend. She is also a teacher, and we often speak about the best way to learn languages. Sometimes she gives me good tips for my classes. There is also another way I get information. It is usually during moments when I have a question, but I can't find an answer to this question. During these moments, I go and visit my magic park, and I get the answer there. Sophia tells my teacher, "This is interesting. How do you get the answers in the magic park? Where is the magic park? Can we go there too?" My teacher says, "What I want to tell you now is not real to everybody. If it sounds crazy, I am sorry, but you asked for it, so I am giving you the answer. I believe that if you have a question and you ask the universe for an answer, the answer comes. When I have a question, I go to the magic park. I sit on a bench. I relax my body. I breathe slowly, and I try to stop my thinking. Then, I ask the question. This is all. Sometimes the answer comes as a new idea in my head. Sometimes, somebody whom I meet later tells me something which helps me get the answer. Sometimes I watch an interesting video on the internet, and I find the answer there. Sometimes the answers come the next day in the morning when I wake up. What is interesting is the fact that the answers usually come. I am very happy when they come. As I said, you don't have to believe what I am telling you, but this is what I do and how it works for me. The park is not very far from here. It is a 10-minute walk. A lot of people go to the park to relax. It is beautiful. It has a very nice atmosphere. I call it a magic park because it is magical for me. My teacher's words are very interesting for me. I didn't know that people can ask the universe for answers. Maybe in the future, when I have some interesting question, I can go to the park and also ask for an answer. When you have a problem with something, ask for help. Lesson 19. Summary. The next day, one girl asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, "Thank you for the information which you give us on how to learn English. Can you give us a summary? Can you give us some rules about what we can do every day to learn English well?" Our teacher says, "Okay, I can give you a simple summary. If you want to speak English well, you need to do 3 things: read, listen, and speak. You already have this information. What is important is that you do all these 3 activities the same amount of time. If you don't do one thing, your progress isn't usually very good. From my experience, I can say that it is important to use English every day for 90 minutes. You don't have to study, but it is good to use English actively. Now I will explain every activity in more detail. Let's start with reading. It is good to read for 30 minutes every day. It is the minimum. Don't read to study English. Read to get some new information. Read to enjoy an interesting story. I know that I repeat this information again and again, but it is really important. Then, it is good to listen to English for 30 minutes every day. It is good to start listening to simple audiobooks or news first. Then, you can go to a higher and higher level of books and news. When you know 2,000 words, you can start watching films and videos on the internet. Then, there is speaking. You already know how important it is to speak when you study English. It is important to speak for 30 minutes every day. Of course, the best is to speak to real people. It can be your teacher, your colleagues, or friends. Try to find somebody who is at your level of English, or a little better, and speak with this person. But if you have nobody to speak to, shadowing and thinking aloud can also get you a lot of speaking practice every day. I use these techniques very often. When I learn Spanish, I don't have any native Spanish speakers in my life, so I use these 2 techniques to improve my Spanish. As you can see, studying English is simple. All you have to do is read, listen, and speak. This is all. Now you know how to do it. "Thank you," says the girl. "This is great information. You are the best." I am also very happy that the girl asked this question. It is my last day at school, and I needed some summary about what I can do during the 4 weeks which I spent with my teacher. I learned a lot. I also improved my English very much. My teacher knows that this is my last day at school. She asks me if I want to say something to the other students in the class. I say that I was very happy to study in this class. I met a lot of nice people. I give everybody my email address, and I tell them that they can contact me if they want to. Then, I say goodbye to everybody. I am a little sad, but I know that I have to continue with my life now. It is 1 year after my last day at school. I used English every day. I used the techniques from my teacher. Now I know 4,000 words in English. It is great. I also have a new job. I start to teach English. I teach beginners. They know only 500 words. It is good for me, because I know that I need a lot of practice as a teacher before I can teach at higher levels. I have one great advantage in my new job. I had a great teacher in London. I learned a lot from her. Now, I am trying to give all that I learned from my teacher to my students. I want them to be successful too. When you want to learn English, read, listen, and speak. Do each activity for 30 minutes every day.